Look, I know I'm super late, but I did not get a chance to do this list until now. So these are 15 projects that are under the 30-minute mark that could be classified as EPs. Some are technically listed as EPs, while others I just lumped into that category. They are short and to the point releases that stood out this year, so I wanted to highlight them. Starting at number 15, Yah-Ra, the R.A.W EP. So Yah-Ra is a rapper coming out of Southern California, specifically the IE section. She's down with Planet Asia, who appears on this EP. It's a cool 7-track project with a nice variety to the production. It's mostly on the smoother and jazzier side, but the bulk of the beats have that head-nodding West Coast boom bap flavor. Yah-Ra is a well-balanced MC who can give you that raw lyrical aggression as well as some uplifting, motivational, and conscious content. My favorite tracks are Blessed, which has a positive message over a G-Funk-like beat. I also like Isis, which is a socially conscious record set to a mystical beat, and the single Think Twice, which features Planet Asia. At number 14, I have Dr. Dre presents The Contract GTA Online. This is a 6-track EP featuring new songs by Dr. Dre and some big name guest appearances like Rick Ross, Eminem, Snoop, Busta Rhymes, Nipsey Hussle, Anderson .Paak, and Ty Dolla $ign. Not all the tracks are produced exclusively by Dr. Dre, as he split those duties with producers like Dem Joints, Bink, Eminem, The Alchemist, and others. But Dre is rapping on every track and actually trading bars and doing back and forth with his guests. Some standouts include ETA, which has a fly hook from Snoop and a strong verse from Busta Rhymes. I also like Scenic Route featuring Rick Ross. The two trade bars over a jazzy beat with horns and woodwinds. I also liked Black Privilege, which has a dusty and up-tempo soul beat from Bink. Number 13, The Alchemist, This Thing of Ours 2. This is the second installment of This Thing of Ours series. It's shorter in length than part 1, only consisting of 5 tracks, but I ended up preferring it more than the original. It featured some artists who I wasn't the most familiar with, but I did enjoy some of their more abstract and experimental styles, as it was something different. Some of my favorite tracks were Lossless by Mike, Miracle Baby by Mavi, and Flying Spirit by Bruiser Brigade. Altogether, it was a solid EP from one of the hardest working producers in the game. For number 12, I have RJ Payne, Beautiful Pain 3. This was an EP that dropped at the very beginning of 2021. It was the Philly rapper RJ Payne's third installment to his Beautiful Pain series. All the beats were handled by his entrusted producer, P.A. Dre, who provided him with a collection of soulful, moody, and mellow instrumentals. Overall, I thought this was a great addition to the series, and it contains some of his most personal and deeply introspective content yet. My favorite tracks are Ventilation 3, Tough Love, and Do It Yourself. Number 11, the Gawd Fahim, Dump God, Shot Clock King. So this was a 7-track EP from Atlanta rapper the Gawd Fahim, who has established quite the underground following over the last few years, much like his counterparts, Your Old Droog and Mach-Hommy. This was one of 2 EPs that Nicholas Craven produced entirely for Fahim. It's a short listen at only 16 minutes, but Fahim manages to deliver with his confident and steady lyricism. You also had glimpses of introspection throughout. I wasn't necessarily blown away by Fahim's bars, but the main high point for me was the production from Nicholas Craven, who might have given us some of his most attractive soul beats of the year. Number 10, Currency's Regatta. This was one of the many Currency projects to drop in 2021, and also one of his many collaborations with Harry Fraud. They have been a consistent duo since the days of Cigarette Boat. This was an 8-track EP with solid features and vibe-heavy beats that pretty much personified the sounds of the fly and luxurious lifestyle that you would expect when these two link. Some of the highlights included Selling Cereal with 2 Chainz, 75 Tons, and Key West Classic with Styles P. At number 9, I have Lucky 7, Lucky and the Laser Gun. So Lucky 7 is a rapper and producer out of Buffalo who I believe is signed to Conway's Drumwork label, or perhaps he's just an affiliate. So the thing that stood out the most to me about Lucky 7 was his wordplay. As far as the production, it mostly consisted of soulful boom bap, and we got appearances from El Camino, Jay Skis, and Flea Lord. Some of my favorite tracks include You Gotta Make It, Motorbike Music with El Camino, Gritty Orange Soda with Flea Lord, and Snoopy's Penthouse. Number 8, Benny the Butcher, The Plugs I Met 2. This was the sequel to his critically acclaimed Plugs I Met EP from 2019. This was produced entirely by Harry Fraud, who provided Benny with an array of cinematic and lush mafioso soundscapes. It was the opposite of the dark and gritty aesthetic found on the original. Even though some fans were disappointed in the glossier production, this was still a dope project. Obviously, it wasn't as hard-hitting as the first, but it was still a cohesive body of work that showcased Benny's versatility over cleaner production. So for number 7, I just have Papoose. No particular EP. I'm just going to use this spot to highlight his exciting and prolific run in 2021. He had released 1 EP per month, just like Flea Lord did in 2020. Each of his projects this year contained top-notch lyricism and solid enough production. Now, I didn't get to hear each month, but if I had to pick 2 that left the biggest impression, they would probably be his September and May project. Now, I understand that Papoose can be an acquired taste, but I wanted to shine the spotlight on his consistency and work ethic all throughout 2021. For number 6, I have Flea Lord and DJ Muggs' Rammellzee. The title and the theme to this project was inspired by Rammellzee, who's a graffiti artist, painter, sculptor, rapper, and New York City icon coming out of Queens. So Muggs and Flea essentially paid homage to Rammellzee on this project. While Flea Lord did represent and come through with that gritty energy, the strength to this release was Muggs's colorful production. It was psychedelic, fun, and rugged at the same time. This project was also a cool history lesson for those who may have been unfamiliar with Rammellzee's impact on hip-hop culture. My favorite tracks include Driver's Seat, Wallabies, and Gucci Loafers, 45 in My Pocket, and Queens Get the Money. At number 5, I have Jay Worthy and Shy Hef, No Sleep for the Wicked. This was a 5-track EP from Compton rapper Jay Worthy and Bronx rapper Shy Hef. The bulk of the production was very soulful, jazzy, and laid back. There were a couple tracks that actually sampled songs from the movie A Bronx Tale, which definitely caught my attention. Overall, it was a cool and dope EP that I didn't expect to enjoy as much as I did. Jay Worthy's smooth and consistent flow complemented Shy Hef's grittier New York City demeanor. Some highlights included Egyptian Cotton, Brigada, and Paralysis. Number 4, Bun B, LES, Distant. This was one of the first projects to drop in 2021. This was a collaborative EP from Port Arthur, Texas legend Bun B and the ever-consistent LES out of Houston, who I would say is Houston's equivalent of Jay Worthy and Currency. The production was handled entirely by LES, who provided very soothing and nocturnal beats. Now, content-wise, we got a lot of jewel dropping and OG talk from Bun B, and LES also supplied us with some mature and thoughtful grown man bars. As a whole, I was impressed with the quality of the beats and the reflective and motivational lyricism. It was the epitome of smooth riding music. For number 3, I have Ransom 7. This was a 7-track conceptual project from the top-tiered lyrical vet coming out of Jersey City. Each of the songs on this EP were named after one of the 7 deadly sins. The subject matter and themes were thought-provoking, spiritual, and even educational. And Ransom definitely did his thing in blessing us with heavy streetwise lyricism. I thought the production was very solid, as it had more of a drum presence than a lot of his work in 2020. There were also great features from Royce, Lloyd Banks, and JR. Out of all the Ransom projects that dropped this past year, this was easily my favorite. For number 2, I have Mach-Hommy, Balens Cho. This was the second Mach-Hommy project to drop in 2021, but at under 30 minutes, it resembled more of an EP than an album. Nevertheless, it was a strong release from Mach-Hommy to end his impressive year. The production was colorful, eclectic, and soulful. I found Nicholas Craven's beats to be the most compelling on the project. And Mach-Hommy continued to show and prove with his skillful braggadocio, motivational anthems, as well as very reflective content. Some of my favorite tracks were LeBeau, Separate the Sheep from the Goats, Wooden Nickels, and Self Love. And for number one, I have Benny the Butcher's Pyrex Picasso. It was one of the stronger EPs from the year and the one that hardcore Griselda fans preferred over Plugs I Met 2. Many Griselda heads would argue that this was the best Benny release since Burden of Proof, but interestingly enough, it was actually recorded back in 2019. All the beats were handled by Chop LaRock and Rare Skrilla, who laced Benny with very raw and hard-hitting production. For the Griselda heads who disliked the bigger and glossier production sounds found on Plugs I Met 2, they were likely very satisfied with the traditional grittiness of Pyrex Picasso. I feel Benny's verses even displayed a little more hunger, and his coke bars were a little more descriptive too. It was Benny sticking to the basics and doubling down on what works. My favorite tracks include Flood the Block, Pyrex Picasso, The Iron Curtain, and Fly With Me. So those are my top 15 hip-hop EPs of the year. Better late than never, I guess. Let me know what some of yours were in the comment section. It's your boy Mixtape Moth. I'm signing out. But be sure to hit that like button and please subscribe. As always, it's peace and blessings. Top 15 hip-hop EPs of the year. 1.